Hey everyone. Now I have a playlist going I call My Life where I've been sharing my life and my pictures. And it seems like I took a really long break from telling those stories and I thought I'd try to get back to that today. Now, the thing is I've been going through my photo album and just kind of reorganizing all my stuff as I am repacking it because I've had to put most of my stuff in storage because kind of not really supposed to be here. I've been staying here with a couple of older people, and since they've died, I've been left with all their stuff, and so I've only been staying here to try to just organize myself and get out of here, or get on the lease and have them redo the house and stuff. So um, I'm actually surprised we didn't tie that up those loose ends last summer. So I was trying to get that done last summer, and I just wasn't ready, so I just decided to just keep working and saving and working and saving. And so, boy, it's been really hard getting back to work. I feel like I've lost a lot of my stamina. And it was really heartbreaking to go out to storage last weekend to get to find something to wear to my Taekwondo class. Now, the exciting thing, if you pay attention to my other videos, I brought up the fact that I might be going back to Taekwondo, which is something I've done 30 years ago and dropped out, about 30 years ago, went on to other things. And where I've been at in my life story seems to be approximately 30 years ago. And so it's kind of a funny coincidence that this school just opened up. And I thought, well, why don't I go down and join? That way I can get back in shape and then also provide some support as a fellow classmate to all the other students. So um, this instructor is kind of cool, and so I happen to have this out. I should share this. My certificate from when I got my second degree black belt. So now, when I went out and found there had been mice in my things, I decided to get this and clean it all up. So that's why I've got my spaghetti pile here. And so I've had to try to find something to wear to class until they can get me a proper uniform. So that's kind of exciting that I'm kind of been going over my stuff because it's like I don't really know how long we got to live when you think about what's going on in the world. They've been threatening it seems like they've been threatening nuclear war for years actually, but now they're starting to threaten again. And after watching the way Rosie and Carrie got sick and died, you never know how long you're gonna live or how long I'm gonna live. And I thought, well, why don't I share some of the things about my life and my journey before I pack up all this stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to manage to stay here in this house or if I'm going to move back to Denver or what. I mean, this year could be the year that everything changes. So I just thought it'd be fun to thumb through my photo album here. Let me see. I have stacks of stuff. I have stacks of stuff under here I was going to share about when I get to Denver. And some stacks of stuff here visiting back in Florida and moving to Big Fork, and I've been keeping these nice big pictures out until I need to put them away because, I really appreciate these pictures, like the one of the kung fu stuff here. There was a nice lady named Linda Handman. I think she's a master now. She's been going ever since I dropped out, and she took these pictures and made me that nice display. And then when I went to see Frontline Assembly, we all went to the church, and there was someone I knew running around with his camera. I said, hey, take our picture. So I emailed it to my dad to brag about my visit, and then he made the picture and framed it and sent it back to me. So I was kind of embarrassed because I think I look like such a dork. But yeah, that explains. These things are just kind of my comfort things, I got this, my collection from when I was growing up here, and my entire CD collection. So just some things to make me comfortable. Otherwise, this place is just where I'm staying until I can pack up all this junk. And so this is my photo album. And so it looks like, Michigan, when we lived at my grandma Weaver's house. Now, my earliest memories were living there at my grandma Weaver's house, and it's kind of fun to think how far back we can remember. So I kind of have a theory that maybe I don't know if that's when your soul comes into your body or not. So some people think that your soul is in your body before you're born, and some people think that it comes after. So who knows? That's why I think it's funny because I kind of remember that day. I got in trouble for getting into my dad's records, and And he realized, after he yelled at me that I care about music, so that's why he took the picture. That way, when I got older, he was able to tell me. He kind of apologized by explaining, so appreciate that. And then here, we moved the Port Huron. I had my own Hot Wheels, and it's just fun to think about Port Huron. See, my dad had a lot of friends that used our basement to jam out, and so that's the organ. And so I used to go down and kind of play with the organ a little bit. And my dad was kind of like the DJ. He always had parties. That was his little music corner, and behind him would be his record cabinet. So that my dad is in his late 20s, around like 29 maybe. And so that's my dad and his friends. And living in Michigan, I feel like, when I think about those times, I think those are some of the best times of my life, but my parents kind of got in a fight, almost broke up. And then my grandma invited us to move to Florida Keys because she kind of wanted to take care of us. So I kind of want to share a little bit about this leg of my life before I left Key West, before I move on, just as a recap, because I think I didn't really tell everything that's happened in my life. I mean, I'm not going to tell everything that's happened, but like, I think, I haven't had a chance to review my videos, but I'll go ahead and tell you, I remember Michigan, and it was just cool because my dad used to have those parties and his friends coming over. And so some of the best memories in my life, I think, were the music playing, my mom singing in a band, and my dad having his musician friends playing in our basement. And so the thing about this part of our life, this is something where I always felt like I wish we could go back to Michigan. And to this day, I always felt like if we didn't move to Florida, we could have all, gotten a music business. My mom was singing in a band. My dad had friends coming over practicing in our basement. And I'm pretty sure I would have been playing in a band. So, I mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's too late, right? But, I also believe in karma. Maybe there's a good reason it didn't go that way. So then we went to the Florida Keys. That's Boca Chica Road. And that's my grandma's. Now that is the mini golf, and that's the trampoline. There's Nessa with her posing there at Sloppy Joe's. Now if you go downtown Key West, there's a famous bar, Sloppy Joe's. Now that's me and my cousin Steven with my Muscovy ducks, Hannibal and Rainbow. Now let's see what's on the next page. So this is all kind of like our first year, it looks like, because that looks like my first Christmas down in Florida. So and then like maybe a few years after that. So that's my dad and his pot plants. My dad and his Joy Division. He was a big Joy Division fan, and so I really liked them a lot too. And that's like, it looked like we skipped a lot there, and that's already like, I don't know if that's my 10th or 12th birthday. Pretty flat chested, so maybe 10, I don't know. So yeah, I used to have long hair with short bangs, and other times I cut my hair short, see. Now, just quickly, I showed some pictures like me being there in my first couple of years. And I remember that so well because we got a trampoline for my first Christmas too. And I really want you to know I had a lot of good times down in Key West because like I kind of went over some depressing stuff like between my mom and dad. So like those guys were always fighting, and that's kind of like why we moved down there. My grandma was trying to keep them together and they were fighting all the time. And so it's kind of it's kind of like a bittersweet experience. I think, a lot of people go to the Florida Keys to vacation and to see things that are exotic. And so like, being able to go in the ocean and seeing the sea life and everything's very exotic. So I'm happy I got to see all that. And so I want you to know I had a good time down there, but I feel like those first few years really sucked, kind of not easy to make friends. The kids at the bus stop were mean. So, I've done a lot of videos explaining all how this broke down. And so I have another series of videos about going into visionary state. So I kind of wanted to make a separate video or series of videos there. I don't really talk about that as much, but somehow, like, as long as I lived in Florida Keys, I had been going into visionary state all this time and didn't even know it. So in some of my other stories I talk about, I thought I had this little friend named Billy. And I always thought everybody in my family knew who he was. But then when I got much older, I found out that he only existed in my imagination or in my vision. So anyways, those first few years, I And then moving to Key West was kind of exciting because we moved from some place that snowed. And, so a whole different climate and stuff. And so I guess I really wanted to make this video to share kind of where my thoughts were like as I'm growing up, Because, growing up with my parents, I always realized that the things we did at our house weren't really popular. So this is my grandma's house. I feel like my grandma, she wasn't, I think my dad's like the black sheep, so she's not like my dad. She's more of a regular working class kind of woman. This is my Uncle Don's sailboat. He used to take us out on the ocean. So I'm thinking around age 12 there. So now Stephen and Nessa were like my best friends. So here's the thing, is I've always been kind of this weird kid, and but I felt like Nessa and Stephen were my best friends. I didn't really have that many friends at school. Actually, there were a few people, like, there's a cool girl named Jessica, and I think because my mom was kind of friends with her mom, and they were just a cool family. So I always remember Jessica, and she's in touch with me on Facebook now. And there's just a couple people I know from Key West that are in touch with me on Facebook. And I'm really honored because I just figure, I didn't feel very liked being in the Florida Keys. And something I've learned from my grandmother was that she never really wanted my dad and my mom to get married, but because they accidentally, I don't know if the birth control failed, but they weren't planning on having kids. And so my grandma's side of the story, she really wanted them to get married and have a proper family, and she really did her best to keep them from breaking up no matter how bad their marriage was. And so that's a big reason why we went to the Florida Keys, because otherwise they probably would have divorced or something, and so that's one of those things. I wonder if it would have been better, but again, I believe in karma, and it's a good reason, that we all stayed together. So it's not the end of the world. I mean, I think life could have been better, but people say, well, everybody goes through this, everybody goes through that. It's like, yeah, I get that, but so be it. I think it's fun to just sort of share my stuff, even though things could be worse, because as I share the things that I go through in life, I also have solutions to offer, so I don't want to leave those out either. But the thing is I just feel like when we got older, and like my sister, my cousins are trying to fit in with all the regular kids, and they're worried about their reputation and stuff like this. I felt like they were distant from me. Like my sister was already kind of distant from me. So like one of my earliest memories, like in Michigan, was when I think my great grandparents were by, and they just, oh, look at Jody's hair. It's so beautiful. So my sister offered to cut my hair off and took a nice big pee on the floor. So I always felt like, my sister hasn't always been a good friend of mine, and we stay in touch, but I really don't feel like she's that interested in me. So, and I think it's partly because, it's a lifestyle choice. I think, if we were interested in the same things, maybe we'd have a better relationship, but it's just, point being is I didn't get a lot of support. I felt like my parents were fighting amongst each other. My grandma never really liked my mom, and I'm the kid of my mom, so I felt like the least favorite grandchild. Even then, my grandma did a lot of cool things for me, like when Christmas time, gave us lots of nice stuff. She helped me a lot, and at some point here, I'm gonna have a lot of Taekwondo pictures because we're getting to that part of my story. Just just a quick flip through here. I didn't want to spend too much time on any of these, so that looks like about me in the middle school. I learned how to French braid my own hair, and so I kind of had that kind of hairstyle where like I would kind of like, maybe it's not so much done here, but I had the bangs where like I would like use hairspray and comb it up, and had that like biscuit looking thing going on. I cut the peacock that lived in the neighborhood and got a picture. And then this is maybe a little bit older. So here are finally the Taekwondo pictures. I think Taekwondo was a good thing for me. A lot of people laugh at Taekwondo because it's a McDojo, so this is a very commercial system. And to this day, like I went over there and took a couple classes, I can tell they're really trying to like cater to everybody's short attention span and get people to keep bringing the money. But on the same token, it looks like they're actually making an improvement on their curriculum and teaching better combat skills. So like, Taekwondo is one thing, but we also want to make sure our students get good self-defense. So I'm going to go for 2 more classes of Taekwondo next week and find out what it costs for a membership and if it's doable or not. And so like, if I want to do that, I might just sign up on a month to month because I don't know how long I'm going to be up in Montana. But yeah, so there's me testing for my second black. I was hoping I could find a good picture. I think that's a cool picture. I think we're doing a flying hook kick right there. And then actually this is a flying hook kick. That's just where my leg is really straight. See, I used to be able to jump really high back then. So Taekwondo is all about high kicks and jumping kicks, you know. So I might not have the best build for that. See, the people that do good in the Taekwondo are usually small, skinny guys. Kind of like Jiu-Jitsu, similarly, you gotta be skinny to be better. So you don't want to be big boned and do Taekwondo, right? So and then this is my last days of Taekwondo here. Boy, somebody came to class and took a lot of pictures. I think my Uncle Charlie might have helped me out there. And then I think I looked terrible. I had dyed my hair dark and then tried to bleach it out. And Mr. Lilly caught me biting my nails, and he probably took that picture to tell me, you know, to stop biting my nails, right? You know, and but the thing was is I really felt like my dad didn't like me going to those Taekwondo classes, but my grandma encouraged it. It's like, come on, you know, it gives her something to do kind of thing. It gives her a discipline. And so I feel like I got pulled out of Taekwondo every time I got in trouble, and then usually got pulled out for the summer. I guess it was good to take a break, but that way we didn't have to make that extra trip into town. Stuff like that, you know. So I'm really glad I did the Taekwondo. And I think the thing is it kept me out of trouble because I had a really bad temper. So like, there's something about me that makes people, you know, kind of attack on me, usually verbally, and I'd really just, you know, flip out and cry and stuff. And then as I was getting older, you know, there are times that I would actually, you know, fight people that try to mouth off or whatever. And so like once I got into the Taekwondo, it was like, you know, if they find out you're fighting at school, they'll what you call suspend you from class, and if you get in too much trouble, then you might actually get kicked out of class. So it was a good thing because I really think there's a lot of times that I did not fight because I didn't want to get in trouble, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So I've shared a lot of different parts of my life, you know, in my other videos, but I can't remember if I talked about this or not, but like when you know, me and my cousins like to talk about naughty things, and I think we also discovered my dad's dirty book collection, and I think he knows that. Like he probably knew it because my sister said she heard him mention it to my mom, but he didn't confront me about it. But so but thing is my cousin Steven found out we weren't related by blood, and he kept trying to ask me to be his girlfriend and stuff like that. And one thing I used to get busted for was chasing the ducks, because like I'm the one that wanted those ducks, and because I wanted to hold them and pet them, but I think my grandparents wanted my parents to teach me to respect wildlife, and it wasn't okay to chase the ducks. But I really thought if I just, you know, catch them and hold them, and I'd eventually tame them. And so I didn't listen, you know, when they kept, you know, punishing me for chasing the ducks. I didn't listen, and I kept doing it. Well, anyways, I got caught by Steven at Grandma's house. So we took Hannibal over to live at my grandma's house. And I was just trying to catch him and hold him, but he went and jumped in the canal. And Steven saw it, and he said, "Ah, I'm telling." I think I was about 8 or so, and he told me that either he's going to tell on me, or I can let him do it to me, or he can tell on me and get me in trouble. And what he wanted me to do was let him stick his wiener in my butt. So he took me in the changing room. We had a changing room outside so you could go swimming. And right before he could stick it in, my dad was like, there, boom, he opened the curtain. He's like, aha! And I didn't know. I didn't want to tell on myself. So I told Dad that I thought I had a pimple in my ass, and I wanted him to take a look at it. But I got in trouble anyways. I think the duck ended up outside, and it came to the outside, and my grandma had a big fence around the yard, so she knew I was probably responsible. I still got in trouble for the duck anyways. Right? You know, so it's kind of a stupid thing, you know, because I felt like those were my ducks, and it really wasn't worth it for me to get in that much trouble. So that was sort of a like, I don't know, a domino effect, but then, you know, that's why I'm talking about like, I've had boyfriends in my teens, you know, and like like I thought me and my little friend Juan, we had like a practice friendship, you know, a practice relationship, you know. And I kind of thought I'd fooled around with him for the first time, but then my cousin Steven tried to introduce me to other guys, and so to be honest, first time I had a sexual experience, I was only 13 years old, and it really sucked because it was painful. And then the guy laughed at me, like the guy called me a slut for doing it. And my sister asked him, you know, why he did it. And he goes, "Oh, well, I was just desperate." That's the punishment, you know. So I had to bring that up because I think we were talking about that. Like a lot of times, our parents, you know, I think my dad really tried to protect me from that, and it really sucks because, you know, good thing is I didn't get pregnant yet. But this is another thing. So later on, when I was 19, I did get pregnant, and I told the guy I didn't want to get pregnant. But yeah, I think you know when you try to pull out, sometimes a little bit slips, anyways. And he must have had a good potent. He must have had a potent seed because he tried to pull out. Anyways, that's coming up. Anyways, my life in review. You know, so Carrie, my grandma was trying to save Carrie from us, you know, so she probably told Carrie stuff like, you know, that I'm going to grow up to be just like my mother because when we went to I think we went up to Disneyland and all this stuff. We were eating someplace, you know, I was finishing my pudding and I loved it so much. I was using my finger to get the rest out. And my grandma was going, "Jody, that's not very ladylike. You shouldn't do that." And Kate goes, "Yeah, Jody, you're going to end up just like your mother someday." Ha 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 ha. And it made me realize that's because, you know, what my grandma said to my cousin, and she probably enjoyed that, you know. So I kind of think my little cousin Carrie could be a real bitch sometimes. But so she kind of played with us sometimes, but you know, it felt like she was like the little tattletale, and kind of like grandma acted like, you know, like she needed grandma to protect. And then there's my cousin Nessa. I felt like she always she would do stuff to provoke me, you know, to get me in trouble sometimes. Like so she totally got my Uncle Don on my ass. It was like, here's an example. Like we were swimming at the canal, and I was trying to jump out of this tree, and I said, "Nessa, could you please move?" And she deliberately kept swimming back and forth in front of the space I needed to jump in. Like I didn't want to land on her. And she kept ignoring me, so I started yelling at her. And then my Uncle Don, once I jumped in the water, he got in my face and his eyes were all like, "Ugh," and he like ordered me out of the water and he ordered me out of the yard and he's like, "Have a nice day." It's like, you know, so it kind of made me feel like, you know, like I've mentioned in another video about narcissism. I think, you know, like we have a pretty good family and everything, but there's like somewhat of a narcissistic structure here where like everyone listens to my grandma and my grandma talks shit about, you know, how I'm gonna grow up to be like my mom. So it's like almost like I'm being punished, you know, for her assumptions and her judgment. But one of the things, you know, so me and my grandma have had a lot of opportunity to talk before she died, you know, so I think we made a lot of progress and we made friends with each other. And one of the things she talked about was when she flatlined for 3 days, which I may have shared in another video. And one of the biggest messages she got before she came back is, you got to learn not to judge, you know, to be judgmental, to judge other people. And I think what she means is, you know, to treat, you know, to determine I'm going to be a bad person and then punish me early. Because, you know, my grandmother has made a big deal about stupid things like, okay, I took a handful of crumbled corn and put it on the ground for the ducks. And she was trying to tell me not to do that because it attracts rodents and stuff, and she'd rather have me, you know, just put it in a container for them to eat out of. But then she's like, "You have the brain of a gnat," blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like this lady, you know, it's like I feel like my upbringing made me feel like shit, basically. So that's what I'm talking about. Like I've had a lot of fun times growing up. But, you know, just being different or whatever, being, you know, like not getting protection from my siblings, my cousins, because they're trying to be cool. And then finally in high school, I met some people that like me and like my music. That's when I was in high school with my friend Janet, like 11th grade. She came from San Diego, and and that's an art class here. She kind of talked me into making this, this paper mache. See, that's New Order Singer. I used to love New Order. That's what I was listening to all the time. And I made New Order Singer and put it on a Christmas tree for this shot. But so that's me in high school. I guess that's, I don't know, like ninth grade maybe, 10th grade, and then I think around like the age of 18. So that's I had a boyfriend named Michael in my, I don't know, like 11th grade, and he dumped me, and then he ended up dying in a motorcycle crash. So not a motorcycle crash. He had a car crash, but before that, I was riding on the back of his motorcycle, and he was going 110, and I kind of yelled at him for that. And I told him, it's not fair to do stuff like that to me because he's endangering my life. And then he dumped me shortly after that, and then he killed the next girlfriend in a car accident, see? It's very interesting, right? So coming close to death, like, that's really scary. I mean, that could have been my car ride, so I'm really glad he dumped me, right? My dad didn't really like me dating him because he was in the Navy, and he didn't really like naval people. He always thought only weak-minded people wanted to join the Navy. So my parents did actually know a couple that lived on the Navy base, but I think my mom met the woman at her job. So my mom worked for the Conch Tour Train, and I'm thinking that could have been as early as 83, so it was kind of cool. It's like a tour train. She drove this thing around that looked like a small train, and gave a lecture about the history of Key West, and worked there for quite a bit. So yeah, so Key West, I learned a little bit about Key West, and it's kind of got an interesting history, and it's an unusual part of the country, but it absolutely sucks to actually live down there if you're working for like minimum wage or maybe a buck or two above that. You really can't afford to live down there. So that's why I had to move to Denver. So, so anyways, I don't know. I really think some of the best times of my life is when I was growing up, playing with my cousins, when we all had a good relationship. It seemed like me, Nessa, and Steven used to play together and go jump on a trampoline, and then our dads, Uncle Chuck and Uncle Bob, would come over and smoke pot with my dad and listen to music. And those are some of the best times. And then going to grandma's and swimming in the canal, stuff like that. But then, but then my mom and dad, having their drunken chaos, like that's kind of the stuff that's, depressing and scary to think about. But like, what I gotta say for those guys is, as rough as their relationship was going, they did a really good job, So that's what people need to understanding is I'm not here to badmouth my parents. It's just like, hey, this has been our trip, and this is probably why I'm crazy. So maybe I'm just kind of a weird person anyways, but, being around people that are, like my dad had a bad temper, so he's always getting mad and yelling at us, and it's like, it's more than necessary, trust me. I don't care what he tells you, it was more than necessary, and it's because of his pre-existing mental condition. So this is somebody that's got PTSD and just really, hated everything the way it was going. There were times where I could tell he just really regretted marrying my mother, really hated having to move to the Florida Keys. He didn't like that climate, and I didn't care much for it either. So I had really bad allergies. It was like constantly fighting a cold, there's few opportunities not experience that. I mean, I must have been allergic to everything down there. So living here in Montana is the best experience I've had breathing wise, right? So anyways, yeah, I don't know. I think I've had a really interesting childhood, and I probably had a better childhood than most people though. But so a lot of times, when you have things like that are hard, that are hard experiences, that it can do one of two things. Either it's going to build character, or it's going to break you down. So in some ways, it's been kind of crippling. Some of the things I've experienced growing up have been kind of crippling. But at the same time, I think a lot of my experience is character building, and that I think I get a lot of good work ethic and just good ethic from my family in general, regardless of these type of things. Before we all parted ways and I went to Colorado and stuff, the reason my mom divorced my dad was because he was too hard on her. He was always yelling at her and beating her up and things like this, and then I had this this boyfriend just, didn't really last long. Like, I think he really only wanted to have sex. And then right after that, I think I went over to visit him and he was sleeping. So there was a few guys he was staying with and they let me in. So I tried to like give him a peck on the cheek and take off. And I felt like, he was pretending to be asleep, wasn't he? So after I got pregnant, I went back to find the guy and I was told they didn't believe me. The guy said he wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole because he probably had to defend himself after they saw the kiss on the cheek. And so my mom paid for the abortion and we didn't talk about it to anyone because here's the thing is you'll notice in my book, I have no pictures of my son. I want to see what I've got left in this book here, right? So there's pictures of me, pictures of my bird, and guess what? I've got so many pictures. Oh yeah, so I think this is when I had the room to myself, so I could hang up all my music posters. That's my dad's music collection. And that was me goofing around with a Band-Aid on my head. So I finally graduated. Finally. I wanted to drop out of high school, but I didn't. I just figured I was really close to graduating, so I finished, So I think I took you through all this stuff before. But yeah, I was just so happy to graduate and be done with high school. And I really liked going back to short hair quite a bit because it was so hot down there, And so I was going to say is I got like tons and tons of pictures of so there's my dad and his dog, Kimmy. Yeah, so Kimmy's kind of a rescue dog. When they first got her, she looked like hell, and so he got her to grow her hair real nice and fill out real nice. So I was going to say is I've got so many pictures of the ferrets. So after I left Florida, he would send me lots of pictures of the ferrets. But what I wanted to say is, there's like, I think we come from a really good family, But some of the stuff I've had to experience, growing up includes oh my goodness, I'm trying to rearrange my furniture just a little bit to set the camera down and get my hands free here. So like, check it out. Ta-da! I don't have any pictures of my sister because my dad got rid of them all. Like he went through his entire photo collection, got rid of them all. Now, I'm thinking my sister was 17 and I might have been 14 and she got knocked up. And it was by a black guy. And he died of an aneurysm. So I'm kind of wondering, my sister always felt like if he hadn't died, her kids would have had the proper father, But the thing is my grandmother and my dad decided we need to disown her because she did that. And not only that, but I also kind of paid consequences for not telling on her. And the reason I didn't tell on her is I didn't want her to resent me, Because I knew she was going to get in big trouble for this. And so when my dad went out of town, she left to go stay with her friend. And then he went down there, like he made my mom tell her where. And he went down there and he beat her up, punched her in the stomach and everything. And then he took her to my grandma's house and he slapped the shit out of her. And my mom's going, Virginia, please make him stop. And she goes, no, Denise, she needs this. So this is like when I reflect on my upbringing, I'm like, the thing that ruins our life is narcissism. So I made a video a little bit about narcissism where, because, I feel like I'm being confronted with my my mental condition, but at the same time in a hurtful way. I feel like I'm also being put down, like something's wrong with you, that type of thing. And it's like, and so I've been learning a lot about this thing called narcissism, and some people say it's an overused word, but actually it's probably the root cause of most of the problems in the world. So like when I share about like what my life is like and the things that I think suck, it's not like I think I'm special, like nobody else goes through this but me. No, a lot of people have a worse life, but point being is the sooner you recognize narcissism in your life, the sooner you can nip it in the bud, or like try not to participate, don't participate. But I think since I've talked to my grandma, me and her have kind of like had our own reconciliation. But I feel like so something she told me she didn't like about my mom is that she knew she was partying and that she was going with black guys. She didn't want her to get with my dad. And then kind of like every time my mom was an alcoholic, and so she was like kind of dragged away from her family to go live in the Florida Keys, where her mother-in-law, which is my dad's mom, seemed to be the queen of our family. See, she was like the leader of our family, so to speak. So and then being the least popular and all this type of stuff. So not really great for my confidence. So I felt like when I left the house, I wasn't really ready for the world, right? So I'd been through all this crap, and my dad didn't really want to let me go. He wanted to keep me there longer, and I was trying to go with my Kempo teacher. So I met a guy that taught Kempo, I think when I was 17, and he really liked me. So he was on disability because he had cancer, and so he was able to stay home all day, and he really enjoyed teaching me because I was a good student. But he probably also wanted to do it to me. So my dad kept me from going. When I packed up all my stuff, I didn't know how to tell my dad, so I packed up all my stuff. And when Ron was supposed to come and get my stuff and take it to Ohio, my dad put a stop to it, and he threatened him either, if you come over here, I'll beat your ass. So Ron's like, well, Jody, I can't come and take you to Ohio because I'm trying to get my family up there without going to jail. So I'm sorry, I can't come and get your things. So I was just going to send my stuff with Ron, and he was going to put it all in storage for me, and then I was going to move up there as soon as I could get, save up a little money and stuff, and then continue teaching, learning Kempo so I could get my black belt and be a teacher. So that's what I was thinking. But my dad didn't like him, and so he made a really good call, because my good friend Simone told me he went and stayed with Ron, and he felt obligated to participate in sexual stuff. And Ron was real close to trying to get me to participate in sexual stuff when I visited him in Ohio. So after I moved to Denver, he kind of tried to invite me, but I turned it down. But with Simone, he was kind of obligated because he needed a place to stay and all that stuff. And he didn't want to say no. So, I mean, maybe he could have said no, but he's really upset about it. And I could see where there's a chance I might have also felt obliged if I was in his position. So it's a good thing I didn't go with Ron. Instead, I went to Denver, because my dad's best friend from Michigan lived there, and I thought if I go to Denver, maybe he'll help get me in the music business. So before I left Florida, I got Kelly on the phone and talked to him about it. So I think the summer of '95, I started making plans to move to Denver. So anyways, my trip in Key West, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like my earliest memories of life is Michigan. So that's like maybe just a couple years worth of memories there. And I really think we had so much fun up in Michigan. And then in Florida, we definitely had a lot of fun down there, despite, some of the drama in our life, So again, I want to say my parents did fairly well considering how rotten their marriage was. And so it's part of the reason I'm single. Like I've always thought, I'm in no hurry to get married. So I'm going to be super careful whoever I marry. And I was like, well, gee, I'm going to be 49 this year. I'm getting awfully lonely. I hope something happens for me before too long, because I really don't like being alone. I feel like I could be doing more with my life if I had the right companionship or partnership or whatever. And so at the moment, I feel like I'm just sort of stranded here. Like I want to stay in Kalispell, but because I haven't had the money, coming in quickly enough, I haven't been able to resolve my relationship with this house to figure out whether I want to sign a lease or not, or if I'm just going to go back to Denver. And so anyways, I want to come back and share more about my life after I went to Denver. So anyways, this is another one of those long videos. I'm sure like 3 people who really care about me will watch, but it's not really here to entertain anybody. Like I don't care how many views I get. But maybe later on in life, when we try to organize any other type of documentary, these videos will make great references, so that's okay if you guys don't watch my videos, and if you don't like them. It's kind of like I'm creating a photo album of videos. So that's okay, Otherwise, there are other videos I really hope people watch, like when I try to explain certain things. But this is just kind of my own... just for myself, I guess. So, but it's also for anyone who cares to get to know me. So it's nothing, I guess there's not a lot of big messages in it that I need to share with the world, other than I think when I look at this part of my life, Actually, it is really important. I think it's very important for people to understand what narcissism is. I really think I would have had a much better life if we didn't have narcissism in our family. So who knows? But at the same time, I think that I was brought up to be a pretty good person, and I'm not looking for validation or anything. Like, I know how good I am, and most people tend to sell me short, so that way, by knowing how good I am, I can totally ignore them. But this part of my life, I don't know. I really think life got better when I got older. You know how a lot of people wish they could be a kid again? Like, there's some aspects I like about being a kid. Like, you don't have to pay rent and somebody's always making meals for you and all that good stuff. So that's one of those things I miss about being a kid was my family have good taste and quality, so when it comes to food, we ate a lot of good dinners, and like my dad and his music, really good taste and quality. And we watched a lot of movies, so you might notice I don't have a television. I feel like I was forced to watch so much TV practically. I remember when we were younger and they'd be like, shut up and watch the television. Kind of like some parents use the TV to get their kids to sit down and shut up. And I always resented that. But at the same time, I will mention there are a number of movies I've watched that are like, wow, it really helps state my point. So I'm not a big movie buff. I almost hate movies and TV, but I'll tell you some things and tell you there's a good movie you should watch. It seems to relate to what I'm talking about. Like I keep telling you about the movie Contact, for example, and Groundhog Day and Fifth Element, I feel like those movies I had to watch to understand my life better. So anyways, I don't know. I just really wanted to like do a recap on my the first leg of my life before I left the Florida Keys, and I'm trying to think if there's anything I left out. But if you ever watch the TV show South Park, I really love that show because I feel like I relate to it a lot. Like when I was in third, fourth grade, we were trying to talk about stuff we weren't supposed to, like, find in my parents' dirty books and things like that, and definitely relate to that show quite a bit. Like we used to play with the kids that lived on the other side, like I forgot to tell you guys when me and my sister used to camp out in the backyard and we'd wait for our mom and dad to go to bed, and it was really more my sister's idea because she really wanted to go out and hang out with the kids from the other side because they didn't have as much parental supervision, so they were able to stay up and play and run around. And so we'd wait till our parents went to bed and sneak out, and she had all these people waiting for us, and they would have booze and pot and stuff. I didn't really take much for myself. I think I was trying to stay abstinent and be good, but so I really didn't do anything too naughty in that instance, except that we were sneaking out when we weren't supposed to. But my sister was trying to hook up with certain guys and stuff. But finally, my dad caught us because one time we were going to sneak out like that, and she was trying to jump the gun and go early, and Dad was still listening to music and stuff. And I told her, let's not do that because he's going to check on us and he's going to bust us. And I was right. And you know what she did is she told me if I don't go, everyone's going to think I'm a scaredy cat, or I forgot exactly what she said, but we got busted because he did, in fact, he noticed it was too quiet, because we usually are out there talking. So we got busted and I got a butt spanking really bad. So it's kind of funny to reflect on when we were kids and the naughty stuff we used to do. So the kids that lived on the other side, the reason I brought that up is it kind of reminds me of South Park, kind of like when Stan's sister had that party and that older boyfriend coming over named Skyler, there was like these older dudes that were like 19 trying to date 12-year-olds and shit, So not that I was in that boat, but, I've seen all that stuff, So I've seen a lot of stuff. So I'm one of these people where like, I've seen more stuff than I'm supposed to. And I guess part of my message too is, I mean, unless your kids are like super sheltered, I think a lot of times kids know a lot more than they're supposed to, or at least they're delving into stuff that's beyond their, they're kind of not supposed to be talking about sex. But I think in a roundabout way, maybe we're making a mistake of holding kids back and not letting them talk about this stuff sooner. Maybe that's the issue. I think you should know all about sex by the time you get your pubes. Because, we're an animal, like, animals don't need sex ed, and there's plenty of them, right? The only reason you need sex ed is to tell the kids why you don't want to have sex. Otherwise, you're going to have kids you're not ready for, right? So really, that's what it's about. And otherwise, stuff like that's like I always thought I was open minded and I didn't have a problem with somebody wanting to have sex with me without the relationship. But what I didn't like was when you see them later and everything's awkward and they're just like, ew, get away from me. Like I had a guy, he's just like, ew, get away from me, you skank, or some other dude like, you're the. And then like the guy that got me pregnant said he wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. So this is why, being open minded and friendly has been detrimental to me in that way. Like thankfully, no harm is done there, but like I guess that's a good lesson in how things really work. So we're kind of like in a like I've been talking about the cultural revolution, we're coming out of this like uptight attitude towards sex to where we're just like letting it hang too loose, And so I kind of bring it back to the middle of the road, like, there's nothing wrong with sex, but when I talk about some of these people I've been involved with, I would say most of the time it was not a very pleasant experience, so those are some of the things I've had to learn about. I really didn't smoke pot for the first time till I was like 18. And I tried mushrooms for the first time when I was 18. And I thought I was never going to do drugs because I was in the ATA, and American Taekwondo Association had a big say no to drugs program. And but I was starting to understand the difference between pot and psychedelics versus, alcohol and everything else. And so I started taking an interest in it because I'd also always been interested in psychic awareness. And I thought psychedelics kind of had some correlation to that. So I think when you're doing psychedelics, it's a small taste of psychic awareness, really. So I started smoking pot when I was 18, and I pretty much haven't stopped since then, except a couple times when, like, I was on probation at some point, so I had to stop for a while. But my first mushroom trip was a birthday present from my father, and he explained to me that in some Native American or indigenous cultures, the kids do like some type of a psychedelic ceremony, like peyote or something, and that's kind of like I forget what you call it, but like when somebody's coming into adulthood, it's sort of celebrating coming into adulthood. So that it was a small dose; it wasn't very much, So but I haven't done psychedelics in a while just to kind of keep my head clear, and anyways, I think I was brought up in a countercultural family, and I feel like that we get that hippie culture, and we got the Beat Generation culture, and everything it's amounted to this day. Like I think industrial music is kind of like part of what you call the Beat Generation. I think there's that essence. I think it's or it's become. But the hippie culture is much broader. There's a lot more music that gets played on the radio that comes from hippie culture. And so, and now I'm listening to trance techno. I feel like that's like the techno for the hippie culture, where, so I'm kind of like, that's kind of what I'm part of. I'm not really like a very orthodox or conventional person. I think, I'm conventional in the sense of doing things the right way and doing things that make sense. I'm not going to come and try to change things just to make it different, like that, like there's a certain way to do things because it's working. That's why you do it, not, going to come in and change things just to be myself, like right now I work at an ice cream shop, and I've been trying to help teach people the stuff that you need to know to make everyone else's job easier and to take care of the food right. But people seem to think I'm making this shit up, and I'm trying to tell people stuff that I believe versus, so that's where, I have a discernment for truth. There's stuff that's just true no matter what. But when it comes to my personality, so there's more support for the type of person I am. I'm a gender nonconformist. I do have the long hair, and I still like men, but like, I'm not, I wasn't brought up to be a proper female. I wasn't brought up to be a good mom and caregiver. And that's okay. I feel like I've never been interested in having kids, and that's because I really don't like being put through public school. I really don't like what we're doing to people. So I was in no hurry to get married and have kids and put them through public school. It's like a prison sentence as far as I'm concerned. You ever notice the buses they use for prison and school is the same bus? Well, it's almost like a parallel program, very much like serving a prison sentence, and all the abuse you get from the kids because there aren't always adults there to monitor things and stuff like that, So I'm not too happy with overall society. I feel like, we're saying we're in a free society and we're not, and I've always known this ever since I was a kid. So I think that's something I really didn't want to leave out, is how I used to think as long as I can remember. I've always known, like, okay, they're telling us we live in a free country, but there's a lot of freedoms we don't have that are really not even, laws. Like whether a guy has his hair short or long, or whether a girl has her hair short or long. Like, there's really no laws about it, but you get punished if you don't get the right hairstyle. Like, you can't be a guy with long hair, or you get punished by not getting hired on by jobs and stuff like that. And so I've always kind of known there's a lot of stuff we do in our culture that's kind of like, it's kind of man-made and fake and shouldn't really be expected. So that's where I've always kind of been like a fringe kind of person. Like, I don't really want to be different. I really want to be loved and accepted, but I feel like there's certain things that I don't agree with so much that I'm willing to risk being left out even then, right? So anyways, I don't want this video to go on too long. I'm getting to the 50-minute mark, and I just think it was important to recap again on what my childhood was like, because in a lot of ways I think we had a lot some really good things going on. Like, my grandma really helped give us more of a proper family experience. I went to public school there, graduated at Key West High School. I think I just took about a semester of college and dropped out because I felt like it wasn't going to work for me. So I was going for graphic design. I've always wanted to be an artist, so it wasn't going to work out for me because we're going to have to make all these trips to Miami to get supplies and get this and that. And it just, and I didn't want to stay there with my dad because he was constantly angry and taking out his anger on me because my mom moved away. So I was the only person for him to direct his energy towards. Otherwise, I would have stayed longer, but I just couldn't take it anymore, to be honest. And I hate to say it, but I think I'd say 80% of the reason I left Key West when I did, because I couldn't take my father's stress anymore. And so when I moved to Denver, I feel like I wasn't really ready. And the last thing he said to me before I got on the bus and left was, I'm too friendly and I'm too naive, and he knows that somebody's going to steal that CD collection of mine. And so, so that was the blessings I left with from Key West. At any rate, thanks for watching. If you're still here with me, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.